The Beast of Eziokwu Forest. I never thought much of stories about Eziokwu Forest. Growing up in the village, I'd heard all the tales, how the elders whispered of a great beast that roamed the woods, a creature older than time itself, feeding off the fear of those who dared wander too deep into its domain. But like any teenager, I brushed it off as superstitions meant to scare children. I wish I had known better. It started one warm evening when my cousin, Obi, came from the city for a visit. He was always the adventurous type, always poking around places he shouldn't. One night, as we sat around the fire with our uncles, Obi laughed and said, "I bet there's no beast in that forest. It's all just talk. I'm going to find it." My heart skipped a beat. Everyone else laughed nervously, but I saw the worried look in my uncle's eyes. He tried to warn Obi, telling him that the forest wasn't a place to be taken lightly. But Obi, ever the skeptic, just grinned and shrugged it off. I remember my uncle's exact words, "You think the beast is just a story? Go ahead. But when it finds you, it won't let you go." The next day, after breakfast, Obi grabbed a flashlight and said he was going to hike into Eziokwu Forest. "I'll be back by sunset," he said, as if it was just a casual stroll. I didn't want him to go, but I didn't want to seem like a coward either. So, I kept my mouth shut and watched him disappear into the tree line. I didn't see him again that day. By dusk, when the sun was dipping low behind the hills, I felt a rising sense of unease. Obi hadn't returned. It wasn't like him to be late, especially not for something so foolish. My uncle, too, grew silent, and after a long pause, he stood up and muttered, "I'll go find him." I wanted to go with him, but I was told to stay behind. It was about an hour before my uncle returned, his face pale, his breath shallow. "He's gone," he said, his voice shaking. He's not in the forest." We gathered a group of men, lanterns in hand, and we searched through the forest well into the night. The trees, tall and thick, seemed to close in around us. It felt as though the forest itself was alive, watching, waiting. As we ventured deeper, I felt a heavy weight in the air, like something was following us just beyond the edge of the light. Then, around midnight, we heard it. A low, guttural growl, too deep to come from any animal we knew. It was almost a vibration in the air, like the sound came from the ground itself. The men froze, their eyes wide with terror. "We need to leave," my uncle said, but it was too late. From the darkness, it came. At first, I saw nothing. But then, the trees parted, and something stepped into the light. My blood ran cold. It was huge, easily 8 feet tall, with muscles rippling beneath matted, dark fur. Its eyes gleamed a sickly yellow, and it had the face of a beast, sharp teeth, a twisted grin that looked far too human. Its claws, as long as a machete, scraped the ground as it moved. The beast didn't roar. It didn't need to. It just watched us. Slowly, deliberately. And then, it moved toward us. One of the men, too terrified to think, pulled out his machete and charged. The beast moved with a speed that didn't seem possible, and in a blink, the man was gone, suddenly swallowed by the night. No scream, just silence. I felt my legs go weak, but my uncle grabbed my arm, pulling me back toward the village. We ran, and the beast followed. Every time we thought we were safe, it was there, closer now, closer than before. I could hear its growls, closer than any animal should be. I stumbled, my heart pounding in my chest, when I saw Obi. He was standing by the edge of the clearing, staring at us with wide, vacant eyes. "Obi!" I shouted, but he didn't move. His clothes were torn, his face smeared with dirt, but he was alive. Still, something about his gaze sent a chill through me. As I approached him, something in the forest shifted. The growls were louder now, but it wasn't the beast. It was Obi. His mouth opened, and in a voice that wasn't his own, he whispered, "It has me. It will have you too." I froze, staring at him as his face twisted into something that wasn't human. His eyes, those weren't Obi's eyes anymore. The beast had taken him. He was no longer my cousin. He was its servant. Before I could react, the beast lunged forward, its claws slashing at the air. My uncle shoved me forward, yelling for me to run. We made it to the village, but I swear I could feel its presence even then, like the forest itself was breathing, waiting for the next person to be foolish enough to wander into its grasp. The next morning, Obi's body was found at the edge of the forest, mangled beyond recognition. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that his eyes were wide open. And they weren't Obi's eyes. I don't know how to explain what happened that night. Maybe it was the beast that haunts Eziokwu forest, or maybe it was something older, something darker. But one thing I know for sure, whatever it was, it didn't just want Obi. It wanted all of us. Now, the villagers don't go near the forest after dusk. And neither do I. I've learned the hard way that some stories are meant to be believed. And that the beast of Eziokwu forest, it never lets go. Stay out of Eziokwu forest. It's not just a place. It's a hunting ground.